Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. An Appeal of Interest, a Zootopia fanfic. As she got older, Judy's future became a game of sorts. Her career was always priority. She'd go to Zootopia, change the world, be the best cop she could be, and after that, it didn't matter. Her sights, like her actions, were done in the moment. She assumed she'd work until she couldn't work anymore. Her siblings joked she'd be the last of them to get married, the last of them to have kids. She took their jokes in stride. In her opinion, they weren't wrong. The likelihood of a relationship and kids, although promising in its own way, didn't appeal to her as it did her parents and family. It was these thoughts that occupied her mind as she was confined to a hospital bed in Zootopia General. Her drug-induced haze glared at the sketchy television screen, and her paw flicked through the channels, not really able to discern one from the other. There was an All My Antelopes marathon on FNN, and the game show channel was pumped for another Trap That Species. Her paw fell helplessly and she sighed. There was nothing good about this. Nothing good about this at all. She didn't look underneath the bedsheets to know what she was in for. And she chewed her lower lip, the crippling pain from earlier acting as a tantalizing but pregnant reminder as to why she was in her current condition. The surgeon said the gunshot wound wasn't as terrible as it could have been, and they managed to remove the bullet and stop the bleeding in record time. Stupid, 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 she cursed as he relayed the news to her. You went in too fast, too hard, but her optimism didn't fail her, and she found herself relieved she wasn't. She didn't know dead, which was what her parents thought when they had visited her. It had taken 5 stern reminders from the nurse that she couldn't be touched. Her condition was fragile, as was her body and everything else about her, he implied. It frustrated her, annoyed her, bristled not at her pride but at her sense of duty, and she felt she had failed somehow. Looks like Sleeping Beauty's finally woken up from her long overdue nap. Her ears perked and a soft smile replaced her agitated frown. Nick sauntered to the bed with an airy confidence that was too true to be real. And he took a seat, still dressed in uniform, worried and as his tired green eyes perked in her presence. He tried to displace his concern and worry, the stiffness in his joints as he sat in the chair, and she hummed an off-tune melody to fill the silence. We caught him, the perp, he yawned, after you got hit. They skirted into Rodentia. Pretty easy to pinpoint her. And, well, when you were trying to whack Mr. Big's beloved granddaughter's equally beloved godmother, you get the picture. He was rambling. She knew. She tried to move closer, but couldn't. Not if she wanted to disturb her bandaged torso. Seeing this, Nick's eye widened, and he pulled his chair closer to the bed, placing his hand on top of hers reassuringly. Are you hanging up well, I suppose? And you're hanging up well, I suppose? And you're hanging up well, I suppose? As well as a fox can without his partner and his wife, but things are great at home. His paw tightened around hers, and she felt the swell of heat and coolness still on her. Strange. Look, Nick, I'm so sorry for getting you into all this. She rolled her eyes and suppressed a groan. If I hadn't been so gung-ho, but I knew if I wasted... Doesn't matter. I'm sorry. He scoffed, rolling his eyes at her sincere apology. That's the reason why I love you, Carrots. But yeah, it was scary seeing you like that, so don't ever do it again, okay? of reproach. But the pleading undercut didn't go unnoticed. I'll try my best. And they knew it was a promise. She was the best trier in the whole city. And when she made a promise, she usually stuck to it. But still, he wasn't going to relinquish his hold on her paw until he saw with his eyes in her eyes, the wide eyes, saw with his eyes in her eyes, the wide-eyed wash he always saw when he was with her. Now, don't get too mushy on me. It's hard to say when he was close to tears himself. He had found her. He was the last name she whispered as she slipped into unconsciousness. And his control demands for backup rolled through the static and screams at Clawhauser. He remembered, not that he'd forgotten. I got a present for you. Well, someone does. But I put it together. He patted her paw and stood up, going to the open door frame and speaking to someone outside. Confused, she craned her head to see, but was too exhausted and weak to see beyond the walls. Nick, I told you, I don't want anything. No, it isn't. That isn't gonna fly this year. He waved her off and spoke again to a person. Look, I know you're embarrassed. We're not. You're embarrassed. You're not. Look, don't worry. She's going to love anything you give her. Trust me. I gave her air freshener for our first anniversary. Waiting, she should have suspected what was coming, but a combination of weakness, exhaustion, and drugs had left her senses a tad off. But either way, she would have been happy, and when Nick returned with his paw holding a tinier paw, she felt blood rush to her cheeks as she patted her mattress excitedly. Hey, baby. Forgetting her current state, she pulled herself up completely and smiled brightly at the young child, whose free hand held a glittered wrapped box to their chest. Oh, is that for me? Yeah? Looking at the floor, then focusing themselves to stare at her. It was for your birthday, but I thought it'd be better to give it to you now. Looks like you need it. Nick agreed. He shrugged. The kid has great timing. Couldn't have done better myself. Does it still hurt? A little, but don't worry about that. Her pain was forgotten underneath her euphoria. And she took the gift gently from the child's hands, shaking the medium-sized box close to her ears. Handmade or store-bought? A bit of both. A teared gasp escaped their mouths, and they shuffled their feet. I wasn't sure you'd like it. I love anything you give me. Darn it, she didn't want to cry, but the tears came freely, gasping as she apologized profusely for events she didn't have absolute control over. I tried so hard. I wanted to be there for you, and I'm so sorry, baby. I am. I thought maybe you were angry with me. Why would I? They shook their heads, water sticking to their red fur. You tried. You can't ask for anything more than that. Despite the distance they tried to keep. Nick gently nudged their back forward until steps were taken towards Judy's open arm, and she pulled them in, cupping them with as much strength as she could. Her tears mixed into their fur, and she kissed their eyes and cheeks, promising she'd never do that again. Couldn't think of leaving any of them behind. Nick followed quickly, unable to resist the urge to take both of them in, and let his chin rest on her head, whispering that he'd never been so worried, so afraid. He didn't want to lose. Couldn't think of losing the first person to believe in him. That wonderful blaze shooting through his life. I promise you, Carrot, you aren't going to lose going in alone again. Rules be darned, the conviction in his voice was somewhat overwhelming. Judy's future was a tad unorthodox. First rabbit cup, married to a fox, also her partner, having a child, loving a child that was neither his or her species. And who would have won the game she wanted? And who would have won the game she wanted? Her parents, sisters, brothers, maybe those aunts and uncles, grandmothers, grandfathers, holding firm in that belief that once she found the right man, she'd learn to settle and accept her lot in life. Her career was a priority. So was the city and citizens she served. And when asked why marry at all, why be a mother, she looked at them and smiled. I still can't say they appeal to me. Marriage, motherhood, but when I found them, I knew it, so I didn't waste it. You can get that much, can't you? The winner didn't matter much in life's grand schemes, but Judy was positive she had gotten more than she bargained for, and loved every second of it.